Okay, hello friends, and good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, everybody, or maybe good morning and good night, depends on where you're joining us. If from different side of the world, different from Australia. Uh, Hello, everyone, and welcome. Kind of back to our October meetup this month. We took a break. Last month for the month of September, and we are glad to be back again here with another awesome session around all the technical stuff. This month focus on a bit different thing, not just purely on Azure. Thanks everyone again for joining us and being with us for our meetup, virtual meetups for this month. I hope all of the friends in Australia are out of the lockdown and enjoying the freedom days, so which is a good thing, and wish everyone is safe and sound. So my name is as a similar agenda, so let's talk about the upcoming events, and then we go for the first part of the session, which is the Azure news, with focus on the developer side. So what's new in Azure for developers? And then we have our awesome guest speaker for the main session, which is all about achieving DevSecOps on Azure using GitHub. Yep. So my name is Sam Alavi. I'm a consultant with Lab3, one of the largest Microsoft practices in Australia, and we provide Azure solution based to clients at a different level, enterprise, government. So all of our contacts from my friends back in the stage, Simon, Arafat, and myself are available if you need to get in touch for any kind of speaking or getting engaged with our community. Please feel free to reach out. And we make sure if there is any question for ourselves or even for the guest speaker, we make sure to pass them through the right channel and get some answers to them. So today's we've got myself talking through some Azure news as usual, and then there are heaps because we skipped 1 month and we took some breaks, and then some usual stuff like upcoming events. We talk about that one, and then we can get into some Q&A if there is any questions, and then move on to the main sessions. In terms of the upcoming events, so GitHub Universe is starting midnight tonight. So if today's main topic is our focusing on GitHub as well. So if you are interested or if you are actively working within the GitHub platform, I strongly encourage them to join the event or at least watch the recorded episodes after the event if you cannot make it tonight. It's one of the global events by GitHub, which they normally announce all the updates for the products, what's new in the platform, what's new in the developers and the teams. So that's going to be cool. They will be running for 2 days and with rich set of contents available for developer community. The New Breakpoint is a new show and good effort by Microsoft Australia team. So the new episode will be out on 18th of November with focus on running Azure App Services within the Kubernetes. That's again going to be interesting episode, and if you are interested in those topics, Kubernetes or app services or a hybrid approach, please join the show and watch it. Always on Cloud Skill trainings also. Cloud Skill Hubs is available, and it's happening. Also, a new level will be introduced by Ignite next month. So that's a free training platform provided by Microsoft, which you can basically used for any level of the technical, for any of the Microsoft products or from the Microsoft stacks, to upskill yourself and yeah, train yourself with all the new updates, new cool stuff happening within the platform. We also, as a usual thing, we can provide Azure Pass, for $100 credit, which you can use for free and apply, activate it if you have a Microsoft Live account. Join on the Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform and start using that one. If you need it, or if you know anyone who needs or who's keen to get their hands on the Azure platform, please direct them to us so we can assist them to use all these Azure Pass with upskilling themselves in the Azure environment. So we allocate 10 for today. So if you really need it, just reach out, please. In terms of the Azure news, let's move on to the public preview side. There are heaps, but we try to pick a few important ones for the developer community. Few things in the public preview. One of the very interesting one just announced last week is the Visual Studio, the new experience of Visual Studio Code within the browser, which is called Visual Studio Code for the web. And as you can see the address on the screen, if you navigate in the browser to visualstudiocode.dev, so you can see that experience, a new, totally new experience. It's exactly the same, but a different experience in terms of launching and working, because it's completely a new web-based experience of the Visual Studio Code and entirely runs in your browsers and enable you to browse any like a source code folder or any remote repository from GitHub or Azure repo. But it comes with some limitations. For example, because it runs in your browser and it doesn't use your local compute resources, you cannot use it for build, run, and debugging the application. But you can definitely use for like interactive coding or any kind of working with offline working with the remote repositories for which you normally do as part of the Visual Studio Code experience. So that experience is available. Jump on the address, try it, give it a try. It's so cool. Cognitive services part of the Azure and computer vision got some updates on the OCR read API. So OCR read API is now expanded to support 122 languages, and those that includes the 49 new languages to support in the print text and 6 new languages for handwritten text. So in total now that OCR read API supports 122 languages which you can use for integration in your application. Azure Map also got a new SDK update, which they announced the iOS in the public preview. So the new Azure Maps SDK for iOS now is available if you want to use it in the iOS platform. And it's aligned with core features of the service. So core features of the Azure Map service is available in this SDK, and they try to keep it aligned with other platform SDKs like Android or Windows or others available. Azure Static Web Apps got a new private preview update, which basically is all about customizing the authentication scenario and authentication mechanism in your serverless function, in your static web app serverless application. And by that, it means you can customize the authentication mechanism in your application by defining a serverless function or Azure function, which gets invoked whenever a user successfully log into your static web apps. So you can use this Azure serverless function, for example, to assign custom roles to the logged in user after successful login. And also you can use those roles to customize the authorization flow also based on, for example, routing based authorization rule based on those roles which you added after successful login. So that's an improvement to the static web apps. Azure Functions got a couple of updates, important updates. The first one is Runtime 4 is in public preview. So Runtime 4 is a new runtime engine introduced to the Azure Functions services, and it's for supporting new language and new runtimes from other programming language, for example, .NET 6 or Node.js 14 or other like a PowerShell 7 and other languages also got updates in this runtime. Specifically for the .NET platform, so version 4 is expected to be GA in the same time when .NET 6 long-term support is released, which is expected to be early November, so in 1 week or 2 weeks. So that is expected to be GA. Dynamic concurrency also, it's a new concept added to the Azure Functions platform. So this feature improves the overall performance of the serverless application you're running by Azure Functions. And what it does is by monitoring your load pattern coming to the serverless functions, and by monitoring the load pattern changes over time and making adjustment to that concurrency settings, which is ultimately optimize the throughput and performance of the overall application by constantly monitoring that load patterns which comes to the application. In this preview, they only support service bus triggers in this preview announcement, but it's open if you want to give it a try and send feedback to the product team. So it's available to you. The rest of the public preview we picked out specifically for Java developers who are working on Azure platform. So there are kind of interesting updates available for Java developers. Looks like I missed one. Let me get back to that one for Cosmos DB version 4 extension also. So it's another updates coming to Azure Functions and services. And basically that's a newly built extension for Cosmos DB triggers based on the new behaviors of the Cosmos DB in SDK version 3. So, and some enhancements included in this extension, which is mainly around performance improvement. And another important one is supporting the identity-based connectors, which is introduced in the version 3 SDK for Cosmos DB. Now they are available for Azure Function Triggers as well. Public preview for Java developers, as I mentioned. So Azure Spring Cloud got a couple of updates on that one for Java developers. The first one is the RBAC config server and registry updates, and plus Nginx logs and metrics. What that means is now with these updates in preview, you can configure and use Azure Active Directory RBACs to access Spring Cloud config servers, configuration servers, and service registry endpoints, which is useful sometimes in the developer and testing scenarios if you want to access to this server for some kind of troubleshooting or to see how application behaves in the dev test area before going to the production. You can also monitor the Nginx traffic via Nginx metrics in Azure Monitor, so you get that integrated experience as well. This features enables you to access the query Nginx logs in Log Analytics, access and query Nginx logs in Log Analytics workspace, and basically correlate them with your application logs for better troubleshooting. That native integration is now available with Azure Monitor. Azure Functions distributed tracing for Java application on Linux also added, and basically Azure Function offers a built-in integration now with Azure Application Insights for monitoring function apps. With this preview feature, the same integration experience is now available as a consistent monitoring experience for application insight for Java applications and Java functions which are running on Linux platform. Monitoring Spring Boot apps end-to-end with Dynatrace is another update for Azure Spring Cloud. And by that basically means this feature or this preview announcement brings the native integration of Dynatrace One agent in Azure Spring Cloud. And by now, Azure platforms support that integration out of the box by Dynatrace, which enables you to continue using the Dynatrace as your choice of APM solution for your application and instrument your Spring Boot application in Azure easily in an integrated mode. Which looks like to be a very common scenario in many organizations that run the application on using Azure Spring Cloud, but at a very large scale. So that's a huge improvement and a step forward for those organizations and those teams running Java application on Azure Spring Cloud. Azure Spring Cloud Enterprise also introduced as a new, is in preview, in private preview. It's a new tiering for Azure Spring Cloud. Azure Spring Cloud originally was announced back in 2019 from a joint force between Microsoft and Pivotal at that time to offer a fully managed service for Spring Boot applications on Azure Cloud Platform, and basically to take advantage of all the cloud platform offerings like scalability, monitoring, out-of-the-box monitoring, security, and etc. By this feature, they introduce a new tiering to the service, which supports a different type of the components which meets enterprise needs, and basically it makes it enterprise grade type of a support for the service, and with advanced configuration capabilities such as like a managed Tanzu components, which is available in Azure Spring Boot's application if you use Azure Spring Cloud for hosting them. Couple of other public preview with primarily focus on AKS and Azure Kubernetes service. The first one is version 1.22 support is added on the AKS platform, and now supports in all the regions which AKS is available, and basically now supports the upstream Kubernetes version of 1.22 within the AKS service. For the detailed enhancement, bug fixes, and all the new capabilities, please check the main release note from the Kubernetes service itself. There are heaps of them available. IP version 6 support, or what it's called as a dual stack in the AKS now is added. So this preview feature basically, so it was announced in the KubeCon conference a few weeks back in North America, and this preview feature adds a dual stack support to AKS, which means basically supporting IP version 4 and IP version 6 within the AKS service. And it brings the IP version 6 support on nodes, all the workers, and all the services alongside with IP version 4, which is a huge improvement. And all the effort, I believe, is done by Microsoft open source team focusing on the Kubernetes. So that's a massive achievement by AKS team. Three cloud provider controller manager is another update on the AKS platform. This is to support AKS out of three cloud provider controller manager, and that means basically AKS team doesn't need to wait for the upstream Kubernetes to release any updates to the service, and now they can do that outside the release cadence of the official Kubernetes. WebAssembly system interface workload is also another update coming to the AKS in the private preview. So by that means, AKS now supports deploying WebAssembly system interface workloads in Kubernetes and support those type of workloads in the AKS using the project, a CNCF project called Crosslet. Crosslet is an additional Kubernetes kubelet that can run WebAssemblies using any WebAssembly runtime instead of containers. So, and this capability basically extends the AKS via addition of WebAssembly system interface specific nodes, which you can add a specific type of nodes to your AKS cluster for supporting WebAssembly system interface, and that node then equipped with Crosslet to be able to schedule WebAssembly system interface workloads on that AKS cluster. That's in public preview, and you can start using that one. For example, if you develop any WebAssembly using .NET, now you can start testing that one using this feature. Cluster node pool creation for HTTP proxy support also is another update coming to the AKS service in public preview. Previously, before this update, it was a bit of problem in some environments, basically requiring internet access to be routed through HTTP proxy. For example, if it was an organization and there was HTTP proxy enabled across the network, and for all those nodes of those AKS service, if they wanted to access to the internet and route the traffic to the internet, it would cause some sort of issues for those clusters. But this feature now enables the AKS cluster to support HTTPS proxy configuration when creating the cluster and node pools and deploying the node pools, by facilitating the integration with HTTP proxies that require the node to be configured to have the internet connectivity in proxy-dependent environment. So this is an improvement to deploying AKS cluster in those environments with a very restrict HTTP proxy configuration available. So now it's out of the box supported by AKS service. A scale down mode basically got another feature to deallocating nodes. So far, if you deallocate nodes, basically it deletes the node and you will lose all the, for example, cached images and everything. And next time when you scale up, it requires some time to spin up and rebuild and redeploy the nodes. Now AKS allows you to select if you want to delete or deallocate the nodes when you're scaling down. And when a node is deallocated, that means the attached storage as well as the container images or cached container are still present to the node. And it's very useful capability for faster operation speeds and speed up the operation overall, because you leverage the preserve the state of the nodes rather than reprovisioning every time you do a scale down and a scale up. Azure Static Web, yep. So these are public preview for announcements. Let's move on to GA. If there is any questions for the public preview, happy to answer. Otherwise, let's move on to the GA announcement. Again, another GA announcement for the static web apps. So IP-based website protection is now GA on the static web apps, and basically that's a feature for whitelisting the access through the IP address to the static web apps and restricting users who basically want to access your website only from a defined IP addresses and non-IP addresses to the static web app resource. Azure App Service availability zone support is also in GA, similar to other services where they support availability zone. This feature is now available for Azure App Service as a PaaS service for hosting application inside Azure platform, and basically simply enables you to create highly available end-to-end application along with, for example, storage, compute, networking, and all other services where they support availability zones. This capability at the moment is only available for Premium V2 and Premium V3, and in every single region that availability zone is supported. So that's available to use if you want. That's GA if you want to use it in the production. Azure Translator Service also supports now more than 100 languages and dialects. And by that, basically, they added 12 new languages to the language set supported by Azure Translator Service and make it in total 100 now. And basically to help you streamline any translation flow if you have in your application and you want to integrate this service into your application for any type of the translation workflow and deliver fast and accurate language translation in your application. Azure Functions Python 3.9 supports is also GA, which was in preview a couple of months ago. Now you can start taking advantage of the Python 3.9 features in Azure Functions. Azure Maps Geolocation Service also is GA now. Geolocation Service is a REST API part of the Azure Map service, which enables you or enables any developer to get the ISO country code for a specific IP address. So basically, you specify the IP address, you make the query to the API, and it returns the ISO country code, gives you which country this IP belongs to, and even if it's IP version 4, if it's a IP version 6, and then you can use that information in your application to customize the user experience based on the country. For example, if you want to have any localization or any different type of user experience customization, if you want to apply, you can use this API in your application. Azure Red Hat OpenShift supports version 4.8 is also available in the Azure Cloud Platform. Azure Red Hat OpenShift is a fully managed OpenShift offering from Azure Platform, which offers OpenShift clusters from Red Hat in a fully managed manner completely in the platform. And now it supports OpenShift version 4.8. And the Kubernetes version used in this OpenShift is version 1.21. So if you want to upgrade or if you want to start using this service, that's GA. Azure Spring Cloud also got a couple of GA announcements and updates. Application health monitoring and end-to-end SSL is GA within the Azure Spring Cloud. And by that means Azure Spring Cloud now provides built-in tools to monitor the status and health of your application. And it supports end-to-end SSL to secure traffic from the point you reach the traffic reach the application in the Azure Spring Cloud from that point on the ingress side. and all the way down to the application side. So that end-to-end can now support the HTTPS through and can have the end-to-end SSL and TLS support. Azure Monitor Application Insight also is another update. It was preview in a few months back, and now it's in GA. So which brings the native integration for application insights for Java Spring Boot applications within Azure Spring Cloud, running in Azure Spring Cloud, and that integration requires no code changes in the application. So with only few configuration within the platforms, you can enable that full integration end to end, and start using the application insight for monitoring and those applications, those Java Spring Boot applications, similar to like any other .NET application which was available from day one for application insight. So you get the same experience by that integration. That's it, I believe, for announcements, and there are useful links. So Azure, as the first point you see on the screen, Azure Functions announced end of support for certain version of Java, Node, Python, and PowerShell, starting February next year from Feb. So you can refer to the updates, or if you need any more details, please reach out. Or if you have any like a workload, serverless workloads running for Java, Node, or Python and PowerShell, which might be impacted, reach out and we can get to the details of that. And again, similar to upcoming events, GitHub Universe happening starting from midnight and going for 2 days. New Breakpoint episode will be out 18th of November, focusing on the new feature added to the app service to be able to run on Kubernetes. And also, please join the monthly community newsletter, which is another great effort by Microsoft team in Australia. And you get the curated content specifically focused on developer and from the community, and great content which you can access to be up to date, or if any new training or any new upcoming events, so you get notified by that one. So that's it from me for the first part. I'm not sure, probably Arafat can help if we received any questions for me, and happy to answer that. Otherwise, we are good to switch over to our guest, the speaker. Let's bring him up, Adrian.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Sam.
From GitHub community. And so if there is no more questions, let's take a 2-3 minutes break, and then we hand over to Adrian.
Sounds good.
Adrian. So I'm sure for Australian folks, he doesn't need an introduction, but Adrian is from GitHub, so he's engineer working with GitHub on day-to-day, enabling all the customers utilizing the GitHub platform. Now for today, we focusing on the DevSecOps, which you will hear more, I believe, during the universe in next 2 days, more about these topics from the GitHub. But now we get the chance from Adrian to show us how we can achieve that one by using the GitHub Advanced Security feature from the platform. Cool.
Great. Thanks so much, Sam. We'll take a 2 to 3 minute break, and then we'll switch back over to us. So everyone get excited. There might be swag up for grabs. More over here. More over here. So, and then I'll be asking some questions. So make sure that you can access the YouTube chat channel, because that's where I'll be checking out all the questions. All right, no worries. We'll take a 2 to 3 minute break and I'll see you then.
I think we are good to go, Adrian. Over to you.
Yeah, cool. No worries. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. So apologies if I don't share anything or stuff like that properly, but it should be sweet. Dun. There we go. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yep, all good now.
Thanks so much, Sam. Yeah, so I really want to talk today about what GitHub is really doing around the DevSecOps space. We've all, heard the buzzwords DevSecOps, security ops, policy as code, all that kind of cool stuff. But some people actually want to see, hey, what's GitHub doing around this space? How are you going to try and improve my DevSecOps culture within my company? And you can just go onto GitHub today and try out what I'm going to be presenting today. But before we start, I want to make sure that I introduce myself. So I'm Adrian. I'm currently a solution engineer over at GitHub. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm available on LinkedIn over here. That's my email address, and that's my GitHub handle at @CleAdrian. And the best part about it all is I love my dad jokes. So whenever there's a chance or an opportunity, I would like to drop one. And that's what we'll be starting with today. I want to give everyone 1 to 2 minutes, have some, get a bit creative. Don't go out and Google, because I would do the same. I'll probably read like the top 5 pages of IT cloud dad jokes within Google. But see what you can think of, type it in within the YouTube chat channel, and maybe the best answer on this time will win a pair of socks. And we'll go from there. And your 2 minutes starts now. Come on, those IT dad jokes. I need some material for some meetings tomorrow. And if you're in Sydney, feel free to drop by the GitHub office. This is where I am today. And we can more than happy to catch up for a coffee. And these pair of socks over here might be nice and shiny for you to wear to work. You can show it off to colleagues, and then and you'll be the coolest kid in town. I hope. 40 or so seconds left. And it's not the fastest to the keyboard. The best quality dad joke wins, especially if it's something IT or cloud related. Something like, a child asks his dad, what are clouds mostly made out of? And the dad replies, Linux servers. Something like that. All right, 10 seconds, and then I'll be looking at the answers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's switch back over and see. And let's check out the dad jokes. Oh, Simon. What do you call a guy with seagull on his head? Cliff, shovel, Doug. Ooh. That's it. John, Alexandra, Alfaro, you won it. These nice pair swanky socks are yours now. Reach out to me on my email, or on my LinkedIn, or on my GitHub handle, and yeah, we'll catch up for a coffee. I'll give you these pair of socks, or if you're out there somewhere remote, I'll post it out to you. But definitely, I like that one. So sorry, Simon. Better luck next time. There's several more opportunities. Cool. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen again. And hopefully that, gives everyone a little bit of a shake, because I know we're all on Zoom meetings all day, Teams, everything. And sometimes you just get a bit, oh no, I got one more, I want a bit of fun. And I just want to try and mix it up a bit, because it definitely does get very tiring jumping on meetings all day, looking at the screen. So just something to get a little bit more creative for the day. Okay, and yeah, let's get into the meaty part of the presentation. How can we do this thing called DevSecOps? I'm sure it's a buzzword you've heard many times. Every day you're hearing it. How do we do DevSecOps? How do I buy one DevSecOps? What are the processes of it? But before I really dive deep into it, I really want to figure out and look at the history into how this really came about. And it basically came about where it's through developers, because traditionally developers are coding more. If you look at the past 5 or 6 so years, more and more code is being developed by developers. And fundamentally, what that means is there's more security threats, because developers are always under the pump, trying to develop features, creating new login pages, creating the new integrations with the new API that got released, and they're just under so much time pressure. And sometimes they just want to meet deadlines. And if there's vulnerabilities within their code, it's not their fault, but sometimes they're under the pressure to deliver, and they just need to commit code regardless of what state it is in. And sometimes we don't want to do that. And the number one attack vector right now for hackers is the code base. You can be as secure as you want on your infrastructure layer. You can have all your firewall rules in place. You can eliminate port 44. You can eliminate port 80. I was about to say 443. 443 is the safe one, and put your certificates and everything on that. But if your code's not safe, if someone just goes to your website and does a SQL injection or something along the lines of that, they could potentially break your website, and your code is leaked and your website's broken, even though your infrastructure is layer safe. So we really want to focus on making sure that a lot of the code that your developers develop are being safe, and they are trained in a way to make sure that they're coding in a safe way. And on top of that as well, what we've found over the past several years over at GitHub is that more and more people are hard coding tokens within the code base. And come on, let's be honest, we're all great developers, right? Nobody hard codes tokens. Oh crap, I think my nose is getting a bit long now. I don't know why. But we've all done it. Sometimes we take a little hack. We don't put it in Key Vault. We don't put it in a secret sort. We'll just hard code this SQL string Before you know it, it's your production SQL server. And then unfortunately, someone looks at the code base, it's on a public repo, and all hell is breaking loose. I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope that never happens, to be honest. But what we've really found is that more developers are hard coding tokens. And this is just the GitHub access tokens, the personal access tokens where you generate within your own developer profile in GitHub. And people are still hard coding this and not putting it in some sort of secret store. And this is potentially so dangerous for people for a hacker or someone to look at your code and say, oh, wow, I have access to a token. I'm going to run amok with it. I'm going to run all these stuff. I'm going to download all these private repositories, delete all this stuff. You don't know what kind of access they have. It's super dangerous. And so what GitHub is really trying to do is we really want to bring everyone to that shift, to the idea of shift left. And if you're not sure what shift left means, it's basically fixing the problem as early on as possible. But so as an example, imagine that you have a bathroom, you're undergoing renovations, and there's a small leak in the tap. And you look at the small leak, you're like, oh yeah, that's a small leak. I'll sort that out later. That's on day 0. Day 30 comes by. That leak gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, 6 months down the track, you look at the leak and you're like, oh no, this leak's just gone over my shower. I need to call the experts in. The experts come in, the plumbers come in, and they say, oh, mate, Adrian, you should have fixed that leak when it was just that little small leak, because now it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars rather than the $20 where you could have went to Bunny's, purchase whatever you need and replace whatever plumbing equipment you need. But now you need to call the experts in. And that's the idea of shifting left. Whenever developers find vulnerabilities early within their code base, you want to make sure that they're aware of it. And they're fixing a lot of those vulnerabilities early. And that's what we really mean by DevSecOps. It's making sure that developers get that fast feedback loop. They're fixing a lot of those vulnerabilities early and making sure that even when they're deployed to the dev environment, they're making sure that the code is safe. But understandably, not all the time you can fix everything. But you want to prioritize and making sure that a lot of the vulnerabilities that developers accidentally introduce are fixed as well. And this is where GitHub really wants to help. We really want to help you secure your code and making it as easy for you as possible. If you look at it today, the people use GitHub, Azure DevOps, and then they use SonarQube, they use Fortify Scan, they're on the Azure portal, they look at Docker, looking at Docker Hub. There's like so many different tools every developer looks at every day. And if you look at all those tools, you're like, okay, I have to log into one, I have to log into another one. Even if you have single sign-on and going to each website and trying to figure out the results of which one relates to which one, that can get very time-consuming. It gets annoying and you get demotivated. And you know what? It's 9:30 Monday and you just want to go out for a cup of coffee. And so this is what GitHub really wants to help you. We want to make sure that you're actually consuming a lot of these results as easy as possible. But also making sure that you're not really going out of your way to resolve a lot of these vulnerabilities. We want to make sure that whenever you code, you get those results on the same screen. You get really fast feedback within 5, 10, 15 minutes. And a lot of it's automated. You don't need to click here, log into another portal, click there, because that's very manual. We want to automate a lot of those processes. And that's where GitHub is really taking a big focus on DevSecOps. And especially with a lot of integration back into Azure, which I'll show you later on, we're going to make it really easy for developers and for everyone to see what's actually happening within the code base. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure everything from your code base is secure, all the way from the different open source dependencies you use and the packages. So if you're using the shopping cart module on github.com, you want to make sure that's always being updated, and shopping cart 1.0 has a vulnerability. You want to make sure that you're using shopping cart version 1.5. And on top of that, whenever you make your shopping cart larger, smaller, or you want to add your own flavor to that shopping cart, that's the custom code that you write every day. And you want to make sure that whenever you do code, that your code's safe and secure, and the different open source packages you're using are secure as well. But also making sure that your developers and everyone around you aren't hard coding tokens, which we all know we're all great developers. Nobody does that, right? Oh crap, I think my nose is getting long again. And all right, here's the second exercise. Here's your chance, Simon. So I want everyone to go back to the YouTube channel hopefully there's enough time. I'm going to give you another 2 to 3 minutes to write, how do you explain DevSecOps to a 10-year-old? And I'm going to give everyone 10 minutes now. Oops, I'm going to give everyone, just give me a minute. Let me reset this timer. I'll just use this one, up to 3 minutes. And I'll let everyone get started now. How do you explain DevSecOps to a young kid? Post it in the YouTube chat channel. I'll have a look at it, and the best answer for this one might win a shirt. It might be this shirt. It might be something like this, or it might be another type of GitHub shirt. We'll see what we have. But you'll definitely get a shirt if you get the best answer. And if you already have won a prize before and you win again, then unfortunately you do have to forego one of your prizes. I do have to be fair, but you get to choose what kind of prize you like and you forego the other one. Unless you're Simon, who I'm not going to give any prizes to. I'm joking. 2 more minutes, guys. And you do get stickers for participation. Just, give it a shot, give it a try. A shirt is up for grabs. And maybe if I find that 2 answers are just so good, maybe both of you will win a shirt. I need to check the GitHub swag store to see whether there's enough stock to go around. All right, 1 more minute. How do I explain DevSecOps to a 10-year-old? You can use analogies. Around 30 seconds left. Quick, I have to go into Google. How do I do it? Or maybe Bing it. All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to go check out the answers. All right. Wow, it's going off in the comments. Like, it's pretty crazy. Okay. Hacking by my secret token. Love it. Okay, here's from Matt. It's like the computer automatically checking your homework for you before you hit submit, so you don't get a bad mark. Well, that's pretty good. Simon says, it's like that moment when you realize you should be wearing shoes only after already you stubbed your toe on the leg of the sofa. And Rama goes, it's like explaining them how important face masks are, even though they're not mandatory in school. And Rob, it's like developing like Bubble Boy, where you put a safety suit on to stop invader germs. And John, DevSecOps is like when mom makes a cake and then you go and make sure that there are no big chunks of chocolate before getting baked. Oh my God, I love all these answers. I think Matt88 has definitely won it because that's pretty good. Like, well done. That's awesome. Feel free to reach out to me. And then, yeah, you've won yourself a shirt. So let me know what size you are. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, GitHub, email, which I showed you earlier, cleadrian@github.com. And definitely, sorry, Simon, missed your luck again this time. But I did like your answer, though. So you were very close. So, and then there is one more prize. There might be a couple more. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm just going to share screen again. I hope everyone's I hope everyone is enjoying this, or maybe everyone's just here for the free swag. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. So, how do you explain? So we basically want to secure everything from a code base, right? Your open source packages, the code you write, and obviously your end-to-end software supply chain. But how do you do this, GitHub? Everyone thinking, okay, it's great. You spill out all these buzzwords, you do all this stuff, but how do you actually do it? And we have this unique technology called CodeQR, where basically every time when you push your code over to GitHub, we scan your code base and we tell you what kind of vulnerabilities you have straight away, and then developers need to fix it. And basically what CodeQR is, it was an engine that came out of Oxford University. And it treats your code like data. So basically it compiles your code in a way, it translates it into a database. And we have like this big set of databases of CodeQR queries, something like a SQL query, or something similar like a unit test, where every time when you push your code over to GitHub, it compiles your code, and then all these CodeQR queries will scan your database or your source code in a way and tell you what kind of vulnerabilities you have. And it's used in a variety of ways. It's used to find vulnerabilities. It's used to find code quality issues as well, which I'll show you a demo later on, what we really mean by code quality. And the best part of them all, we want to create a big community of these CodeQR experts, because basically if someone from Google or Microsoft writes a CodeQR query, they can open source it back on github.com and everyone would have access to that. And that's the beauty of it. There's not enough security experts nowadays, and we want to make sure that we're sharing that knowledge around by everyone. And this is roughly how CodeQR works at a very general high level. If you're really interested to know more, I'm more than happy to call in the super CodeQR experts, which we have from GitHub. But basically what happens is you have your code base over here, and every time when you push your code on the GitHub, we take the code and we compile it, and that's the building. And we build it in an artifact. And then we plug it into an extractor, which actually turns that code into something like a database. So the CodeQR query can go in there and start to run its queries over it. And when we turn the code into kind of like a database, GitHub will run the several CodeQR queries which have and store the code as data. So when you write a CodeQR query, when you write a SQL query, you want to do something like, hey, select star from 5 kilometers of where the top 5 coffee places are within a 2-kilometer radius. You query the database, and the database says, hey, that coffee place around the corner is good, that coffee place is good, but that coffee place is good. You do something like that similar in CodeQR, where you write a CodeQR query which says, hey, I want to find all the variables in my code base which aren't being used. So if you define x equals 10 within your code, but you're not using x anywhere within your code base, it's not a vulnerability, but it's more of a code quality issue, because you don't want any unnecessary lines of code within your code base. And none of us has ever done that before, right? Oh crap, my nose is getting like really long now. So, and then basically we compile that code into a .star file, and then we spit it out for you within GitHub for you to consume. And you can actually export a lot of these results back into your own system as well. And that's roughly how it works. And there's a CodeQR CLI, so you can run it on terminal. You can go to VS Code or a code space on GitHub to start running against it, so you can start building up your own database and stuff like that. And I should actually give you a quick high level of how it actually works. So over here, this is a high level. This is just like a starter workshop on how you actually write a CodeQR query. And this is the problem. And as an example, like imagine that you write a for each loop, and I starts at 5, and I only ends when it's less than 4. And after each loop, I increases it by 1. That's not really a vulnerability. It's more of an infinite code quality issue, right? And similar for the second line, I starts at 5 every time until I is greater than 6, it stops. But then at the end of each loop, I minus is 1. And these issues exist within code bases nowadays. And these issues exist in code bases nowadays. And it's not really a vulnerability, but it's more of a code quality issue that you want to make sure you find. And so basically, every time when you push your code to GitHub, these CodeQR queries will run and pick up a lot of these vulnerabilities and tell you, hey, Adrian, you've put this stupid loop within your code and it's never going to finish. It's just going to continue to run and run and run until your GitHub action runner breaks and the whole pool of agents will break around the world. That won't happen, I hope. And basically, this is what a CodeQR query looks like. You basically start from a for statement and then go to select, similar to SQL, and then you slowly tackle on finding what type of loops you're looking for within your code base. I'm not going to walk through each one, but if you just go all the way to the end and look at the answers, just like your high school math textbook, you look at the back of the book, okay, that's the answer, right? This is what it roughly looks like as a CodeQR query. And this basically makes your CodeQR query a lot more general in nature. And someone from around the world can pull this query down and then run it against the database or run it against the code base and see what kind of loops they get. It's really time enduring. Every time when you commit code, pass it on over to another team to find out what's going on. And so we want to try and automate a lot of this stuff. And this is what we're really trying to achieve. This is what we're really trying to achieve with DevSecOps over here at GitHub. We want to make sure that we make your lives as easy as possible so you can do the more fun, gritty stuff, which is creating new integrations with APIs, creating new features, and not checking whether your code base has any vulnerabilities. You want to leave that to the bots, and that's what they're good at. Oh, I'm just going to share my screen again. Give me a second. And yes, I'm using Google Slides. If you're wondering, okay, how come GitHub uses Google Slides? It's because we're still on Gmail, we're still on Slack, and we're still on Zoom. But we also use Teams and PowerPoint. So GitHub's we're quite open. We use pretty much every tool on the planet. All right, this is the last question. I'm gonna give everyone 3 minutes to explain CodeQR to someone non-technical. And this is the best prize. You will get a GitHub hoodie, which I'll grab later on and show you what it looks like. But it's a black GitHub hoodie. You get 3 minutes to explain what CodeQR is like to someone non-technical, and just put it back in the YouTube chat, and then we'll see how it goes. And just give it a shot. It's okay. It took me quite a while to get it, and you can easily go into Google, quick, how to explain someone to CodeQR, how to explain to someone. And the timer starts now. And while the timer's running, I'm going to grab my hoodie to let people know how it might look. And this is what the GitHub hoodie looks like. It's just the GitHub logo on the front, and then on the back it just says GitHub. So it's just a nice black hoodie. It's probably not for summer, but definitely next winter when you're freezing, you're like, oh no, I need my GitHub hoodie. And you can rock up to work and everyone will be asking you, how did you get that? And you have to say, I want to add an issue on Meetup. Or I bought Adrian 10 coffees. All right, we've got 1 minute and 10 seconds. There might be one more bonus round. So hold your horses. A nice GitHub hoodie might be coming your way if you can answer this question. How do you explain CodeQR to non-technical people? And then you're like, damn it, I wish I was listening to Adrian. Or you could be like, Adrian didn't explain it properly. You can use analogies. That's fine as well. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. All right, let's look at the chat window. Simon, it's like Clippy, but instead of for writing, it's for code quality. Wow. Okay. And then the Sonacube for GitHub, rather. Simon, it's like your own personal version of Adrian looking over your shoulder and saying that's wrong, and don't do that. That needs fixing. But I don't know what's wrong. And that's like, it's like creating an episode of What If, but instead of the MCU, it's your code base. I love these answers. Simon, it's like your own personal cloud version of Silent FX Cop. And then Arafat, the code Karen. I love that one. And then Matt 80, but it's more than static analysis. And then someone's like, it's like your mate that calls shotgun to sit next to you when you drive and then tells you took a wrong turn at the traffic light. Oh, wow. I think you won it, Simon. You did it. You won the best prize. It's like Clippy, but instead of for writing, it's for code quality. Like, you hit the nail on the head. So awesome. No, that's it. So feel free to reach out, Simon. But definitely. Oh, John, here we go. I'm late, but it's like having RoboCop in the store door. Ooh, that's a really good one. All right, Simon, I'll give it to Arafat. So Arafat, feel free to reach out. We'll get a coffee if you're in Sydney or if you're in CBD, and then you will win a nice GitHub hoodie. You have to tell me your shirt. You have to tell me your shirt size, though. Thanks so much, Simon, for being such a good sport. Meanwhile, Simon underneath his desk has like, I have this whole box of GitHub hoodies. What are you talking about? Okay, there might be one more towards the end, so let's see how it goes. Oh wow, we only have 20 minutes left. Time flies. Awesome. Okay, so, and basically that's what GitHub does. So you use this thing called CodeQR, but there's also another thing which we have called secret scanning, where we basically, where we scan for hard-coded secrets. Once again, we're all good developers. Nobody does that, right? And we scan for hard-coded secrets in your code base and tell you when you've committed it and the line of code as well. And then on top of that, you can also use CodeQR to set coding standards. So making sure that if you're a security guy, you want to write a CodeQR query that says, hey, I want to enforce this standard across my organization. No more using X as a variable. You can only use Y. You can roll that out as a CodeQR query, and then now all your development teams will now have to follow that standard as well. So there's several ways you can actually mix and match to make sure that you do this. We have a customer in Japan at the moment that uses this, and they actually use CodeQR for this, where basically they want to enforce specific coding standards across the entire organization. They're a big manufacturer, and every time when they develop code base, they want to make sure that their car operating system is safe and secure, because their goal is to build one of the world's safest cars. And this is just a wide list of all the secret scanning partners that we work with. So you can see over here Azure in the top right-hand corner, and those other cloud providers who I shall not name, otherwise Simon will ban me from this meetup forever. And there's a whole list of partners like HashiCorp, Slack, Postman that we work with, that if you hard code any of their tokens within your code base, we'll scan for it immediately. And it just makes life so much easier, because sometimes we just forget, we're in a rush and we just hard code something on our laptops and we just commit it. And it's just nice to get it handy to find, oh crap, we hard coded this webhook or something like that.
Sorry, mate, to interrupt. Your screen is not shared.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Wait a minute, thanks so much. What about now?
Not yet.
Is it good?
No.
No? Oh my God. What about? Give me a second. Sorry about that, guys. Dun, 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 dun. Share screen. Entire screen. What about now? Still
Yeah,
no?
all good now.
All good? No worries.
If there was any slide before this, probably you need to go back and talk to that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
so this is it. You know, GitHub over here, we scan for any hard-coded tokens within your code base, and we can use that to set coding standards across your organization. So, and I'm sure you heard my little blurb back over there. And this is just the list of partners that we work with. So you can see Azure in the top right-hand corner over here that we work really closely with. So we scan for things like storage account keys, SQL strings, stuff like that. And you can also define your own pattern. So if you're using a custom pattern that internally your company uses that says, hey, you know, I'm generating my own patterns for it to access some internal stuff, we can scan for those as well if you define that specific regex key. And it just makes life that little bit easier, because sometimes we forget that we hard code tokens and stuff like that. And even I've done it. Oh, finally, my nose is getting shorter now. I told the truth. Cool. All right, there's no more slides. That's it. This is the real good stuff here now. All right, and basically, I'm just going to exit out of here. Just give me a second, folks. How do I exit? Come on. Give me a second. Whoop, there we go. Cool. All right, so if you want to get started with GitHub Advanced Security, it's really easy just to go in there and get started. And over here, I have an example of the OWASP Juice Shop. And basically what it does is this specific application is probably the most vulnerable and insecure web application that exists on GitHub. But you're not meant to use it. It's meant to be used as a practice exam to see, hey, this is how you're not meant to code. So if you follow, please don't follow the coding standards on this. So, and if you just go to GitHub Juice Shop on Google, you can see over here, this is the GitHub Juice Shop, and you can see how you can get started and stuff like that. But you can, and since it's a public repo, you can actually run GitHub Advanced Security over it. So before you use any open source code on GitHub, if you see any public repository, what you can do is you can just easily press the fork button and then just fork it to any of your existing organizations, and you can get started straight away. And I'm just going to quickly fork it back to back to this one, Demo Me Enterprise. And while that forking is taking place, give it a minute. And when that forking is done, you can just easily go to security. You can fork it to your own organization, your own personal account, go to code scanning alerts, set up this workflow, and then basically GitHub does it all for you. You can just go in here and see, hey, GitHub automatically write this YAML file for you as a GitHub Actions template. And basically it will trigger every time when you push over back to the master or main branch. It will set it up as a cron job, and basically it will run these tests and let you know what kind of security vulnerability it will run. So I'm just going to this repo already has it. So I'm just going to quickly delete this CodeQR analysis. Actually, no, I'll go back to security scanning, set up this workflow, and I'll just name it different. I'll just set up -1, and I'm just going to commit it easily to master. Don't ever do this, folks. Don't ever commit straight to master unless you're trying to deploy to production without going through dev. Like, come on, who would do that? Crap, my nose is getting longer. And you can see over here, look, CodeQR just runs and away you go. This is how easy it is to get started to see what kind of vulnerability. So whenever you go to github.com and you want to see, hey, I want to use this code, is it secure? Should I use it? You can just run this over it and see what kind of vulnerabilities it has. So we make it super nice and easy for you. But it's going to take a couple of minutes to run, but I'm just going to quickly pop back over to my org. Juice Shop. I forked it last night, and it's all public, so you can scramble through my logs and see what Adrian tried to do to make this work. And if you just pop over to security, code scanning alerts, you can see, hey, GitHub CodeQR has picked up all these vulnerabilities. I've picked up some hard-coded credentials. I've coded some stuff over here. And then if you just go back over here and see, hey, what kind of severities I want high severities. you can see that these are the vulnerabilities that is picked up, line 37. And then it provides you like a nice little recommendation and an example of how you can potentially fix this vulnerability. So we make it easy to get started as well. And if you want to integrate back into other scanning tools as well, it's relatively easy. If you just go to add the scanning tools on the right-hand side over here, and let's say, and as an organization, you're probably using several other tools, right? You're not just using CodeQR. You're probably using stuff like SonarQube, Fortify, Anchor, Prisma Cloud. You can integrate any of those providers back into GitHub. So as an example, within my repo over here, DSP testing net app demo, you can see over here that, hey, I've actually integrated the Anchor container scanning tool over here, and it's actually highlighted all the different container vulnerabilities, which I'm very poor at, and it's actually picked it up. You can actually go into here and see, hey, this is his CVE, it's related to it. This is the link of how you can potentially fix this vulnerability, and it links back to the relevant provider. So we make it quite easy. So you can actually integrate several development tools back over here. And if you plug in the right workflows within the GitHub workflows file, you can actually push a lot of those container alerts back to Security Center. So you can see over here within this workflow file, this basically just scans for your container images, and every time when it pushes to the Azure Container Registry, it'll post the logs back to Application Insights, and you can actually pop back over to Security Center over here, go to Azure Defender, container image scanning. Come on. Not when I'm doing a live demo. There we go. You can see that, hey, these are all the different security vulnerabilities I have within my Docker image. And it takes a while to get this to work. So feel free to go and try it out. There is a blog post and there is a link to the Azure documentation page. So definitely feel free to try it out and see how you go. And these are just some of the native integrations. So, and with Azure Container Registry, it's really great. You can upload your Docker image, but if you also want to get a second pair of eyes over it, and you want to use Anchor or Trivi, that's not Qualys, you can use that as well. And that's where GitHub is really helpful, because GitHub can integrate with so many other different container scanning tools. You can get, sometimes you want a second or third opinion from those other tools to see what kind of vulnerabilities that it might have missed, that your solution might have missed. And it's all open source and free. So Anchor and Trivi, there is a paid version. However, you can just use the open source version and just go ahead and scan away with it. So we make that super easy for you to get started. And over here, we have secret scanning. So it basically scans for any hard-coded secrets. And I'm going to be naughty over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin up a code space. And if you don't know what code spaces is, it's VS Code within the cloud. You should definitely get on it. And let's just go to new code space. Let's just spin up a 2-core. Otherwise I'll get an email from my boss and asking, why did you spin up a 16-core? Now you have to pay GitHub. And while that's spinning up, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. You can see over here, you can check out all the logs that are spinning up. And I'm just going to pop back over to my storage account over here. I'm just going to go to my storage account. Where are you? GitHub demo Terraform. That's me. I'm going to be naughty. Oh, the internet knows all my keys now. I'm going to put this within my code space. So this is my code base. This is my code base. This is my code space. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a bit naughty. I'm going to create a new file that says passwords. And then basically within this password file, oops, I didn't put, oh my God, where is it? Within this password file, I'm just gonna quickly hard code this token over here, go back, and then say oopsie as my commit message. Yes, stage everything. And then push those changes up. And if you just go back to the passwords over here, oops, I've hard coded the token. If you go back to security, Adrian, it picks it up like immediately within the 10 seconds and say, hey, this is the commit, this is the code base, and basically this is the line where you need to fix it. And you notice I didn't even put a file type under it, so it just scans every text file that it basically has, and then away you go. And this is just some of the stuff where we try to make it as easy as possible for so many different developers as well. And on top of that, I'm not sure whether you've heard of, we also have Dependabot, where basically it scans for all your different open source packages, and you can basically just export a lot of these logs back. You can basically not export a lot of these logs. You scans your different open source packages which you're using today, and then it tells you, hey, Adrian, you need to upgrade to version 4.17.21. And once I generate my package.json file, I can create a security update and open up the pull request as well. But I just haven't done it for this specific code base. But it's just some of the stuff that we're trying to make lives easier for you. And that's what really DevSecOps is within GitHub. Trying to automate a lot of your security processes as much as possible so you can do the more fun work. And on top of that, we've also recently released, it's not really a DevSecOps kind of thing. You can see that over earlier on my repo, I've done some changes. I kicked off some code scanning issues. And basically, if I want to kick off any release pipeline or stuff like that, I'm just going to kick this one off. And basically, you can actually stream a lot of your logs over here back to Azure Event Hub now. Just pop over to Event Hub. Come on. Should be able to see all my different requests. Once it's generated, you can basically see, Adrian's kicked off some demos over here. You can actually generate all the different order logs that GitHub takes. You can input it back to Azure Event Hub by just setting it on your enterprise account. If I just show you how to do this by going to github.com/enterprise. Whoops, where are you? Let's go to settings, audit log streaming. You can see, hey, I'm streaming everything to Azure Event Hub over here. And that's where it's streaming to. So all the different order log events, you can stream it back to Azure Event Hub, and then you can plug your own SIEM system into it, and then you can download all the different logs and stuff like that. So just to make it a little bit easier, if you want to trigger specific things off, and these are just some of the things which make your lives between Azure and your developer experience so much easier. You just export a lot of the logs and automate as much as you can. So you don't have to worry about that. It's all up to the bots to do that stuff. Okay, maybe a couple more slides. Actually, there's no more. I've actually repeated my question, but I do have one more bonus round, and I'm just gonna quickly sum up and make up on the spot. How long does it take for CodeQR to scan your code base? That's the question. And if you get this right, I'll be super amazed. So I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to, go back, figure out how long does CodeQR take to scan your code base. And I'm going to let you use Google. So go onto Google and find out and see. I want to see how fast you can find it and see what the answer is. And I'm gonna give everyone a hint. It's not a specific time. And let's just go. I'm gonna give everyone 2 minutes, and then the winner, if you haven't won before. So if you've won before, you can upgrade from a pair of socks to like a shirt or a hoodie, or if you want a shirt, you can upgrade it to a hoodie, and we can give the shirt to someone else. But I don't think Simon will be participating. He already has his box of GitHub hoodies underneath his desk, probably smiling in the background. One more minute. And definitely reach out, folks. Like sometimes, life gets busy. Like feel free, reach out to me on LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn, reach out via the organizers, and I'll make sure that you get your swag. And I'm always more than happy to meet up for a coffee. I'm back in the office, and GitHub office is in Circular Quay, so that's where we are. Feel free to use Google and Bing to find out how long does CodeQR take to scan your code base. And definitely stickers for everyone for participation as well. All right, 5 seconds. And then after this, we're just going to have some questions and answers. And then we're going to wrap up for the night. And hopefully everyone will have a nice, awesome dinner to wrap up with. All right, that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing and see what kind of questions. So Matt, so what is it? Okay, so there's Simon, cool, 2 minutes. He's on. He does have, you don't have any GitHub merch, Simon? Oh, wow. So he's got E equals MC squared. No. Good answer, though. Matt, about depend on the size of the code base. And Simon's 2.34 size section. John, all queries that the selected query depends on. Ooh. Matt, you've won. Like, yeah, it depends the size of the code base. That's the most accurate answer. But it's also dependent on how long it takes for you to compile your code. So the longer it takes for you to compile your code, if you have like a big, massive mono repo that takes 5 hours for it to compile, that's how long it would take for CodeQR to compile and run its queries against it. So it was actually a bit of a hard question, but good answer, John. I quite like that one. So and there we go. And then we're pretty much wrapped up for today. But just if anyone has any other questions or comments or anything like that, this is the part to take it. Just more questions and answers. I can see that there's some questions. Oh my God, there's so many comments. Like I haven't looked through. So John asked, I'm just going to go through back all the different comments and start answering them. So feel free to, if I miss you, I'm so sorry, but definitely feel free to ask again. John asked, in regards to the GitHub hosting, does it happen in the Australian data centers? So we do have a solution that's coming that is coming to an Australian data center. It's nowhere within the short-term roadmap. Hopefully within the next couple of years that we will have a SaaS-based GitHub within Australia. And I have every customer that's hounding me and messaging me every day, when can I get a local GitHub? And I wish I could really give it to them. Like, it's just something we're working on the back end. It's just so complex that the team's trying to figure it out. And on top of that, it's actually the Azure. And on top of that, we're actually taking a lot of ideas and concepts from Azure DevOps, because that's where it is. Like, Azure DevOps is hosted locally within each Australian or within each Azure data center. We're actually trying to leverage a lot of that knowledge and ideas to try and build that out for GitHub. It's just something that's so complex that our teams just say it's taking so long for it to be released. And Simon, so many vulnerabilities in one code base. That's right. Matt, can you use checks as part of branch protection? Yeah, you can. That's a really good question, Matt. So you can use a check, and basically when you do branch protection, and it picks up a vulnerability within your branch, it'll give you a big X and tell you, hey, you've introduced this new vulnerability in your branch. I'm not going to let you commit until you fix it. So that means you have to force the developer to code in a way to make sure that you don't have that vulnerability anymore. So not only does it scan on the main branch level, it also scans on all your subsequent branches, and you can enable branch protection on it. And Simon, does it just pick up tokens from any service or just Azure? It picks up from any service which I showed you before. So on that nice big screen. So it does pick up tokens from like Google, Amazon, or any other, or our other partners like Atlassian, HashiCorp, etc. And if I just go to the secret, if you just go to this site, secret scanning GitHub partners, I'm going to post it in the chat window. That basically says that basically gives you the list of out-of-the-box providers that you have that you don't need to scan for. And yeah, and you're right, Matt, you can define your own format as a regex key. And then Matt, you can run GitHub Enterprise Server on Azure. That's fine as well. And Simon, what's the one thing at university you can tell us about? Oh wow, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. What's one thing I can tell you about? Okay, I can tell you this. There'll be more stuff around Copilot. So if you don't know what Copilot is, I'm just going to quickly share my screen once I have it on. So I'm just quickly share my screen over here. And please, Sam, tell me if maybe, and please, Sam, tell me if my screen is not sharing. Hope everyone can see my screen.
Not yet.
Nope.
Again.
Yes. Okay. This is what Copilot is. It's basically, it's an AI pair programmer, and basically what it does is it helps you. It doesn't code for you. It helps you code. And basically, if you want to write a function, or if you want to pull some specific API, rather than go to Google and type in what is the API for GitHub and then trolling through like so much documentation and logs, you can just write a comment over here, and Copilot will actually go in and recommend you, hey, I think you should use this REST API, or I think you should use this specific Azure function, or something like that. And then you can code away. So it doesn't actually, it helps you code, but it just makes your life that little bit easier, because you don't need to go to Google, figure all APIs you want, go to GitHub, and then work out, okay, what functions do I need? It speeds that whole entire process up for you. And then you can, once Copilot recommends you some code, you can make some changes and stuff like that around it. We're announcing a little bit more around this. That's more I can probably say. And otherwise, all the GitHub overlords will come beating down on me. So definitely keep an eye out for that. How do I stop sharing? Oh my God. There we go. Stop sharing.
Yep. So did you share any link? Looks like the link.
Yeah. I tried to share a link. So I tried to share this specific link on the YouTube chat channel. So it is basically this link over here. This link, which tells me about all the different secret scanning partners that you have. So you got Adobe, Amazon, Atlassian, Azure.
Probably you need, if you cannot share it with guys here, you need to share it in our chat on the other side, and I can put it in the comments below for the guys.
Yeah. Or you can just type in GitHub secret scanning private repos on Google, and it will be one of the first results that come in. So it's relatively easy to find.
Cool.
Cool. Any other questions from the community?
I think you have gone through all of that. I didn't notice any new questions here. Yep. If there is anything else for Adrian?
No.
Probably we can wrap up the evening.
Yeah, no worries. Definitely feel free to reach out if you want swag.
Yeah.
So I think it was Matt, Arafat, and I think Alex,
Yeah.
who came up with the awesome cool dad jokes. Was it? Yeah, that's right. So reach out, and then reach out to me on LinkedIn, email, and then I'll definitely give you your swag. Yeah, and I think who was eligible for the upgrade? I'm just trying to figure out. Sorry, I just had to like scroll through all the comments and figure it out. Where is it? Matt, yeah, that's right, Matt. So since you got the second question right, I think you're eligible for another swag. But yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn and then we'll work something out.
Cool. Thanks, Adrian, for super cool, awesome swags giving away today to our community. It was super cool. Nice one. So I'm feeling a bit of, I've got a bit of jealousy feeling now, but yeah, we talk about that later. That's fine. No, that's all right. Super, very cool session. Thanks for that. It's quite interesting stuff happening in the GitHub platform, which is going to boost the developer and software development delivery lifecycle for every single team or every single person working within that platform. Yeah, thanks for that. And yes, guys, so as I mentioned, so there are some Azure paths also available. Let me share back my screen. And yep, as you can see below the screen, please go to that address, and it's available for the 10 first submits for tonight. So if you need that Azure Pass, so just a couple of hints. If you have already activated some Azure Pass before previously with your Microsoft accounts that you are going to use, you cannot do that. So that must be a Microsoft account that you can only activate it once. And if you need it, yep, jump on that link so you can basically take advantage of that $100 Azure credit, which you can use it in a year. Or if you need someone else, please pass on the message from us or direct them to us so we can facilitate that by generating a new Azure Pass for them and get their hands on the Azure platform. So more than happy to help and assist here for anyone who's keen on learning new stuff on Azure environment. Yep, apart from that, nothing else from us this evening. Thanks again, folks, for hanging around until it's 7:10 in Australia, Sydney time. Thank you very much. I appreciate coming along and supporting our community. So we have something organized for the next meetup in November. It's gonna be around serverless. So if you are a big fan of serverless, just keep an eye on our announcements. We're going to announce that shortly in the next couple of days, and it's gonna be cool. And that's it. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay out there, and looking forward to see you again soon, everybody. Thank you. And a big kudos and big huge thanks to Adrian tonight.
Cool. No, thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.